Hello everyone, and welcome to Mudlick Creek Garage. So today we're going to do the axle bearings in my 2002 Honda Rancher 350. Let me show you what's going on. So this machine has quite the wobble in the rear tire. If I get you back in here, you can see the hub moving inside of the axle shaft. That is commonly an axle bearing. Actually, about the only thing it can be is the axle bearing. We did get lucky though. The issue is on the differential side. So we don't have to mess with any of the brakes or anything like that. All we're gonna have to do is pull the hub, the tire, the hub, and these 4 bolts. So I'll take you along with me. So now we're gonna have to get off our axle nut here. And I like to either use a pair of needle nose or a flathead. Sometimes you can get lucky and get them with your fingers like that one started. So that counter key fought me tooth and nail and I didn't get it all on video. But so now we're gonna remove our axle nut. There we go. And now our hub should come right off. We can see in here that our axle bearing is essentially non-existent. The seal is gone, whole 9 yards. So now we will get this off of the differential. So again, these inner bolts are going to be 14 millimeter that hold this axle tube onto the hub. See if I can get in here with my little Milwaukee. All right, so now we just have to fight this axle tube off. Seems like it's stuck in the skid plate. Yeah. So you're gonna have to remove the, looks like a 12 millimeter in the skid plate. Yep, 12 millimeter. So put all these nuts in a safe location where you're not going to lose them. I'm gonna set them up here with you guys on the stand. So now we can remove the mess of a shaft, and here's part of our seal. The rest of our bearing race and seal and all that you can find just kind of chilling in here, not in great shape. So let's hope this didn't do any damage to the housing itself. We can see the bearing race still, inner race was still stuck on there. Doesn't seem to be any damage to the differential though. That all seems to be good. So let's get this pressed out of here and we'll see what happens. So for my press setup, I have an old Craftsman 1 5/8 socket with a long extension that fits perfectly down and in here when the press is out of the way, and it sticks above the top. And then I have these press plates just kind of situated on in a way that they hold these ears. Should work fine. So there we go. We have the old bearing out, and now it's time to reinstall the new bearing. So for new bearings, I'm just using a generic set of All Balls Racing ones off of eBay. No need to go fancy. These rarely go bad. This bike's got 2,700 miles on it, and this is the first time they've been done. So just like pressing them out, pressing them in is not a terribly hard job. All you're gonna have to do is set your bearing on top here. Make sure it's square, easier to do with two hands. And then we're just gonna push it in with the press. You're gonna press this bearing in a little past the end because you do have to get your seal in there. There should be a stop. And there it is. You don't want to reef because this is a 20-ton press. You can really push these bearings in way past where the manufacturer wants them to go. So now it's time to push the new seal in. There's a couple ways to do this. My preferred way to do it is just carefully tap it in with a hammer. Now, this can be better if you use a block of wood, but I'm gonna be careful. So you just gently tap around the outside of the seal. And you're just gonna bring that down in flush. You want it to go in nice and square as well, because that seal is actually gonna ride around the outer spline, or on the outer of this hub, which you can see is a little grooved up from the bearing coming apart. So next we have to figure out how we are going to get the bearing race off of this hub. Sounds like fun. Okay, so now I'm going to get the old bearing race off of the hub. I am gonna let you know, I tried it just to see if it would come apart, and it blew right apart. So this is gonna come right off easy. But what I did was I took my chisel, just like so, took my hammer, and I just tapped right where it's supposed to go on, and it popped right up and off, and now it completely unsees itself. So you can take that, throw it right in your scrap metal bin. You ain't gonna need that anymore. So now it's time for reassembly. Do you remember where I put those bolts I told you not to lose? So we're gonna make sure our O-ring is still in our differential and make sure there's nothing in the way of that sealing surface. We're gonna make sure to put our little skid plate bolt down towards the bottom. Slide this on here. Take our 14mm nuts. Screw them back onto here. The torque spec on these is German. It's good and tight. Really, as long as they're tight, they ain't coming off. I'd have to do some looking in the manual to get you the actual torque spec. I normally just put them on with an impact and don't drive them home. You just give them a little bit of a, like that, and they're good to go. Obviously, be vigilant about it. Come back and check them. If you start to feel something goofy in the rear end of the bike, first place to look is the stuff you've already torn apart. So now it's time to put the hub back on. It's gonna slide right back onto its splines and down into the brand new axle bearing. We will reinstall the axle nut, just a regular old forward thread nut. All right, a little more so we can get the cotter key in there. Tap that cotter key down and through. I just reused the old cotter key because even though it faulted me, it wasn't bad. It wasn't all bent and beat and half broke. So flip the front over, and I normally like to snip the back off. There. And also make sure to reinstall your skid plate bolt, that 12 millimeter that I forgot to do. There, all installed. Next step, we're gonna put our tire back on. So let me scoot you back, readjust you. And it's just all 4 lug nuts as before. Lug nuts, I like to start by hand to make sure you're not going to strip them out. I've stripped a few in my time of working on ATVs, side-by-sides, vehicles. And it's never fun. These Hondas are nice because you can just pound the studs out and replace them. But still, if you don't need to do it, there's no need to do it. So grab your impact. This is another thing. They do have a torque spec if you're worried about it. Torque them down with your torque wrench. I run them home with the impact. I know this little gun here will put somewhere around 100 foot-pounds into a lug nut if I hold on to it for a long time. So I normally just zip them down, give them 1 or 2 impacts, and you're good to go. So now, as you see, there is absolutely no slop back here in our axle. So there we have it, folks. That is how you replace the axle bearing in your 2002 Honda Rancher 350. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe, and thank you for watching Mudlick Creek Garage.